everybody, I'm Vera Stewart and welcome to the VeryVera Show. I just threw out the first pitch at the Augusta Green Jackets game and I'm here at SRP Park. It is a beautiful facility and we are doing a show today called Sliding into Home Plate. So we're going to make 3 amazing recipes. First of all, I want to tell you that the Augusta Green Jackets are the minor league of the Atlanta Braves. So many of these players end up as an Atlanta Brave. So there's so much excitement here tonight. So the 3 recipes that we're doing are all sliders, 3 different meats. We're going to start with a barbecue slider. And for those of you that don't really know how to do it on the grill, this is a crock pot recipe. You will be amazed. Then we're going to move into a copycat Crystal Burger slider. And you know, I grew up eating Crystal Burgers, so I have had the best time making this recipe, and I think you're going to love that one too. And then lastly, we're going to do a chicken slider. It's moist and tender, has a secret ingredient, and you're going to meet the founder and owner of this company. So we've got a lot to do. Let's get started. Oh wow, I had so much fun throwing the first pitch. And you know, I do so much with football, but it's time to pay some love to the baseball teams around. And so the Augusta Green Jackets really are quite a big part of our community. We just love it. So we're doing sliding into home plate today. So we're gonna do 3 sliders with 3 different meats. So we're gonna start with the slow cooker. And I know all you guys that cook those Boston butts and pork shoulders on the grill are thinking, you can't do that in a crock pot. But you know, we don't always have that kind of time. So I cannot wait for you to try this recipe because it is delicious. So I'm gonna put a little bit of oil in the bottom of the crock pot. About a teaspoon. All right, and then at the fresh market, you can pick up a Boston butt or a pork shoulder, and you want to do the fat side down in the crock pot. So I have already got that on the bottom, and we're just going to move this right into the crock pot. All right, so look at all these amazing ingredients. I just love it. So this is Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce, and we actually use this quite a bit during the golf tournament in Augusta. So I'm just gonna start adding everything to this Pyrex measuring cup because it makes it very easy to pour. So my second ingredient is liquid smoke. Then I've got apple cider vinegar and chicken broth. You know, and honestly, during the summertime when we're cooking chicken on the grill, I save all those parts and I make my own chicken broth. So you might want to think about that as well. So I'm just going to mix this together. And then we've got another whole set of ingredients that's going to go next. Brown sugar. And that's what really gives it just a little bit of sweetness that I love. I've got yellow mustard. And this is actually the Fresh Markets brand that I'm crazy about too. Worcestershire sauce. And most of these ingredients you're going to have in your cabinet, so you don't even have to worry about anything but going to get the meat. And you know, I love to mince my own garlic, so we did that as well. And then thyme. And this is a dry spice. It should be in your cabinet. All right, so we're going to mix this together. And this is going to go right on top of that meat. I mean, just the aroma is fantastic. If you go to pick one up and it's bigger than you need for what you're doing, then you can ask the butcher to cut it for you. This is about a 4-pound Boston butt. All right, now the Schumann Farms real sweet onions are going next. We're just going to cover that with those. And then what I recommend on this is 10 hours on low or 5 hours on high. And so my tip to you is go slow and low. So that's what we're gonna do. All right, so the crock pot is on the back counter, and as the day goes on, it's gonna smell so good. This is one of those dishes that you can make and the children or the husband comes home and they cannot wait for supper. All right, so the sauce that goes to the slaw that we're gonna use on this slider is actually a recipe that is for the broccoli salad in my first cookbook. So this is another tip that I'll give you, is that when you find something that you love in one thing, you could love it in something else. I'm going to add white wine vinegar to my Hellmann's mayonnaise, and then granulated sugar. And you want to mix this pretty well to get that sugar incorporated. And then I love to just pick up the slaw mix. It's really colorful. It has the red cabbage and the carrots in it. And so I'm going to pour a good bit of this in, but I'm going to leave just a little bit that I might put on at the last minute when I serve it. And then the real plus to this is the Cosmic Crisp apples that don't turn brown when you grate them or cut them. And we've left the skin on, and that's going to give this slaw a really great flavor. We're just going to blend that together. And then this is going to sit in the refrigerator and marinate, and it's going to be the topper on these Boston butt barbecue sliders. So let me get this in the refrigerator, and then we'll start shredding the Boston butt that I cooked yesterday. All right, so this is the one that I put in the crock pot last night, and just look at how it falls apart. I mean, it is so tender. And you can just take 2 forks and just shred it. It's going to be so delicious. And to keep it moist and the moisture there, as you shred some, you just want to put a little bit of kosher salt or sea salt on it. And so I've also got my pan ready to toast the buns with a little bit of butter. So we'll get finished with this during the break, and when we come back, the best hamburger slider ever. You don't want to miss it. Welcome back, everybody. If you're just joining me, we are sliding into home plate. You know, we've given so much love to football that it's time to recognize our baseball players, especially this time of year. So we've already gotten the barbecue sliders done, and this is a copycat Crystal Burger. I grew up in Macon, Georgia, and I promise you, just putting this recipe together, all I could think about was that you did not go home by time of your curfew if you had not gone into the drive-thru at the Crystal and gotten a couple of hamburgers. I mean, I have so many fond memories of this. So if you're a Crystal Burger lover, you're going to love this recipe. All right, so we're going to get started with dehydrated onions that I'm going to add enough beef broth to that to bring them to life. So if you've always wondered how in the world they got those onions so tiny and so tender, now you know. So I'm just going to let that soak a minute, and then let me talk about what I did to get these patties ready. So you start with your hamburger meat in a food processor, and you're literally grinding it on high. Then you add water, and that makes it go even better, almost like a paste, and you add a little bit of salt. Then I've put that into a sheet pan, and you're going to have a piece of saran wrap in the bottom of it, and you're just going to smear that hamburger meat with a spatula or with a metal spatula. And then if you have another pan that same size, you can press it down with that. If not, you can just press it down with your hands. Once that's done, and this is another great memory for me, that we used to sell the bars in the cafe in 3-inch squares, and we still have the template. So I used the template to score this meat into the 3-inch patties, and then that went into the freezer. Now I'm ready to have these about semi-frozen, and I'm going to add in my onions to this pan. Woo! And it's ready. It's ready for those onions. All right, so I've got it in the pan. Now I'm going to move all of this to the edge. And I think I'll probably be able to do 3 of these at a time. And the reason you semi-freeze these is because it's so thin that it could fall apart if it's not, you know, nice and frozen. And I'll just slide that into that pan. And these are going to cook for about a minute. So we'll let that take place. Okay, all right, so this is ready to flip. Look at that. I mean, my grandchildren are going to be introduced to Crystal Burgers in Granny V's kitchen. All right, so let's take this spatula right here and add a few onions to the top of each one of those. You guys have got to be in here with me because this aroma is like I just walked into the Crystal at 11 p.m. on a Saturday night. All right, so now I'm going to put the bottom of the bun, and these are just Hawaiian buns, the square ones. So we're going to put that upside down on the top of each one. And then the lid goes on top of that. And I'm going to do several batches, so that's why I've got so much onion. Now I'm going to grab my lid, and they're going to steam. And that's where the bottom of the bun starts to get soggy, like you're familiar with. All right, so we're going to finish this off, and then we'll put the mustard and the pickle on it and be ready to go. When we come back from the break, we're going to get started on the chicken slider. So we are doing all three meats as we slide into home plate. See you back in just a minute. All right, welcome back everybody, and it smells so good in here. I need one of those little crystal hats because that could be my part-time job. They smell so good and taste good too. So now we're getting ready to do the chicken sliders, and these are going to be made with a very special ingredient. These are the penny panko cheesy breadcrumbs, and the owner and founder of this company is going to be joining us in the next segment. So I think you're going to really enjoy meeting her. But we have used these quite a bit. We use them during our camp program with the campers to do this, basically the same dish we're doing today. We also use her snacks during the Masters golf tournament here in Augusta, and we just love her products. So let's get started on this dish. All right, so what we've got here are the chicken tenders that on Tuesdays you're going to go to the fresh market. The ground beef that I used just a minute ago and these chicken tenders are so inexpensive on Tuesday. So stock up on those days. So we've cut the chicken breast just into about a 2-inch by 3 to 4 inch tender. And I've got my Hellmann's mayonnaise in my pie plate. And I'd like to use that because you can kind of slide everything around. But I'm just going to coat the chicken tender in the mayonnaise. And I've got my sheet pan covered with aluminum foil. And then now I'm going over to these panko cheesy breadcrumbs. And look how well it coats. And you know, last week we did a chicken tender that you fried. But the nice thing about this, especially this time of year, is you're not turning on a bunch of heat on top of the stove. So we're just going to get these lined up. Let me do one more. And then we'll get started on the sauce. So the mayonnaise really helps the panko stick, but it also adds a lot of moisture to this dish as well. And these can be, you know, when you, like I said earlier about a recipe, if there's one part of it that you love, you can use it for other things. So you're going to find all kinds of things you're going to use these for. All right, so I'm going to get those other two done in a minute. But let's get started on this sauce that goes with it. All right, so this is a honey mustard that again has a lot of ingredients, not just honey and mustard, that really makes this wonderful to use for so many different things. So I've got my mayonnaise in the bowl, and this is a country grind Dijon mustard. And one of the main reasons I love it, because look how pretty it looks in the mustard. So when you're doing a dipping sauce or you're doing a cocktail party where you've got something, you know, it just looks really different and it tastes so good. And how about some wonderful honey? And you know, everybody has their little people in their town that do honeys. So hopefully you can find a vendor to get some really good honey. This is apple cider vinegar. And of course we've got a little salt and pepper. And then this is just going to mix up. I've got my oven on 350, and these are going to bake for about 10 minutes or until the internal temperature is 165. All right, so we've got 3 sliders ready. We've got a fabulous presentation. We've got a really good guest today, really cute. So come back with me in just a few minutes and we'll be sliding into home plate. Welcome back, everybody, and obviously we have slid into home plate with some wonderful recipes today, but the best part of the end of this show today is my special guest. This is Becca Wright. She's from Charlotte, North Carolina. And Becca, we are so happy to have you today.
I am honored to be here. You're an all-star, Vera, so thanks for having me on your show. Thank you also for using our product in one of your recipes. I really appreciate it. I'm Becca. I'm from Piedmont Pennies. We're bite-sized, cheesy biscuit crackers based on my grandbuddy's recipe from Eastern North Carolina. I grew up pinching pennies, spending a lot of time in the kitchen pinching the dough onto sheet pans. Think of a crunchier, cheesier Southern cheese straw that are delicious on charcuterie boards with a glass of wine and a great gift. And I grew up making them, and I kind of, just took it for granted how special they were until I launched it as my MBA class project in 2020 during COVID. And we would just bake, pack, and ship out of my kitchen and laundry room. And fast forward 4 years later, we're an all-female owned and operated team out of Charlotte, North Carolina. So that's, we're just so excited to be here. That's where we are today.
Well, and hopefully you heard her say that this was her MBA project and that it has now turned into her company, which most people probably don't take it to that extent. So I love that part. Well, I would love to quickly walk you through what we did today.
Okay.
So we started with a barbecue slider. So these are sliders that you can use for tailgating. If your husband doesn't want to cook on the grill or you're hungry for barbecue, you do it in the crock pot. And so it's a Boston butter, either a pork shoulder. It cooks on low for 10 hours or high for 5. But literally it just falls apart and you just shred it with a fork. But one of the best parts of this is the slaw that goes on top. And we grated a Cosmic Crisp apple to go in it. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait for you to taste it.
You're sharing those. Okay, good.
All right, then we did a copycat Crystal Burger. And I know you are such a young lady, but back in the day when I had to be home from a date by 11:30, we had to be at Crystal by 11 so I could get my hamburgers and come home. And honestly, making that was so nostalgic to me. Even the smell, because you would go in Crystal and you could just smell the onions. But have you ever cooked with a dehydrated onion?
No,
I hadn't either. And so that's what makes that, is soaking it in the beef broth and then steaming it in the pan. That's why the bun gets soggy. I just loved it. But home plate is all about you, Becca. It is what was a product that was going to be wasted that you have turned into a penny panko cheesy breadcrumb.
It's a tongue twister.
So how did it come about that you made that into a product?
Honestly, my production manager one day was taking the crumbs from our packaging and going home and making quiche crust, tomato pie topping, mac and cheese topping. And I was like, Lauren, this is amazing. And she was like, I know we have so much of it every day. Why don't we sell it? So we started having customers request it as well once we started posting on Instagram and on social media. And I said, let's get the branding right and let's start getting this out to people to help them stay cheesing. And so that's where we are today.
Well, and everything is on her website at PiedmontPennies.com. So y'all look at all the products, but certainly that one, you've just given me some ideas about the tomato pie and the crust for a quiche would be amazing. So if you have got no time, remember that you can always pick up snacks at the Fresh Market, whether it's chips or peanuts or whatever. We also threw in some Cracker Jacks because you can't go to baseball without a Cracker Jack. And we just wanted, we didn't do this on the show today, but we wanted to showcase that you've got to have a wow factor for dessert. So this is the Mile High peanut butter pie that's in book 2. And instead of doing the meringue crust, we did the
Cracker
Jack crust. So if you really want to wow somebody, you know, for a special occasion, I certainly recommend that. It could, you know, all be crumbled apart. So certainly I want to also mention that we just got written up in Okra Magazine, a great article about what we do during the golf tournament here in Augusta. But you are also featured in the very same issue. So she's got a double-page spread in there as well. So if you don't have time to read about her on her website, certainly go to that article. But I always say on the VeryVera show, no matter what you do, do it in good taste. I'm so happy to have had you today. You'll see more of her, so come back and join us again next week.